إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخرجون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن يعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم كثيرا أفلا تتقون هذه جهنم توعدون واليوم اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فاستطاعوا مصيبا ولا يظلمون فمن نعمره ونكتبه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون لعلكم تسعوا ما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين ينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع منها فلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم لهم دين يحضرون ولا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم يرى الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا قال ليس العظام والرميم ليحيي الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم ولا هو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون سبحانه مما يشركون يرجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم اجعل القرآن في الدنيا قلما في فضل وبشرف القيامة جميعا فقال السلام عليكم يا قوم يصيبني ضعفا فقلت أعوذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف فقال يا فاطمة وديك بالنساء اليماني وغسلني فأتيت بالنساء اليماني وغسلته بيقين أنظر إليه وإذا وجدت ثانيه فما فيها ساعة وإذا بولد الحسن قالت وقال السلام عليك يا أمه قال السلام يا قرة عيني وسهرت فقال يا أمه إني أعلمت راية كبيرة فإنها راية يبدو رسول الله فقلت نعم إني سجدت تحت الكتاب فأخذ الحكم نحو الكتاب وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله أتعلم أن الغلام فقال وعليك السلام يا وكيل يا وكيل وبي وقال بنت لك ودخل معه تحت الكتاب ما كان إلا ساعة بيضاء ولد الحسين قال السلام عليكم يا أمة فقلت عليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي فقال لي يا أمة إني سمعت راية طيبة فإنها راية تزكي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله فقلت نعم إن لك وأخاك تحت الكتاب فلنا الحسين نحو الكتاب فقال السلام عليك يا دجال والسلام عليك يا من الله أتعبني أن أكون معكم تحت الكتاب قال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي قد أذنت لك فدخل معهم تحت الكتاب قد عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله فقلت وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين فقال يا أسمع عندك راية طيبة فإنها راية أخي وابن عمي رسول الله فقلت نعمه وأنا عليك تحت الكتاب فقال علي نحو الكتاب فقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله أتعلمني قال وعليك السلام يا وفي وقد الشيطان بعيد وشهدت لك فدخل عليه تحت والسلام عليك يا رسول الله أتعلمني أن أكون معك قال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بدعتي وسلمت لك فدخلت تحت الستار وما تدري من السماء فقال اللهم إنا هؤلاء بيتي وقاتلتي ورحمتي تمنعني وتمنعني وعدوا لمن عاداه ونصره توحيدي وانا منهم فاجعل كلماتي امراتك ورحمتك وغفرانك والمؤمن علي وعليهم ورحمة عليهم وبشرى وتغفرا كثيرا بما خلق السماء مبنيا ولا أرض مبنيا ولا ولقد كيد الكور ولا أخر كثير ولا كل شيء يكفي لكن فقد السلام عليك يا رسول الله العلي والأعلى نصرة السلام فالتقية والإكرام وأقول لك غير والجلال فيما خلقت السماء المبنية ولا أرضا مسجية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيا ولا ملكا يقول ولا كفا يزيد ولا كنت يزيد إلا ليمسكم حقكم وقد أتنا لي أن أدخل معكم فأسأل يا رسول الله فقال رسول الله عليه السلام الذين وصل الطائفة فقال الذي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله أن يذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويكفركم تكفيرا. قال عن يا رسول الله آج موسے خادم آج موسے خادم اپنا لگا جو پہلے کروں میں عرض جو پر ہوئی میں کیا حضرت کو رسول گئی میں کر ہوا رسول مل گئی میں کر ہوا نبی سے نہ کیوں دل ملول مولا ہماری آخری رخصت قبول مولا ہماری آخری رخصت قبول ہوتے ہیں آپ اسیر بنا عوام سے بتا جو آئی میں چلے سادہ بنا کی تو بات اڑاؤ دنیا سے جا پڑے صادق کا روٹی جہاں سے ہے گئے کرار ہوتے کی لاش بڑھ جائے ابرار ہوتے کی لاش بڑھ جائے ابرار قربان تیری غریبی پہ جانے جانا قید خانے میں تجھ پر دیتا مرنے کے بعد تو گلے سے جدا مرنے کے بعد تو گلے سے جدا آنے نبی کے دل کو یہ کیسا مرحب ہوا نیلا اثر سے دیکھے ہے بدن نیلا اثر سے دیکھے ہے بدن کی لاش چاہتی جس وقت لے آگے آگے یہ بنا لاؤ شہید ہو گیا عالم کا سر اپنا پیٹتا ہوا مردود مقبرے میں ہو بکا ہوا رونے کا
السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ. آپ سے بھی گزارش ہے آگے کی طرف اور بلند آ رہے صلوات. We are honored to have Maulana Rizwan with us today, inshallah, coming soon. This quick announcement right before the speech. Inshallah, next program at Bradford USA is next Sunday at 3 p.m. Inshallah. So please join for Jashni Wiladat Imam Hussain alayhi salam and Maulana Abbas alayhi salam. And that will be 3 p.m. next Sunday here at Bradford USA on-site program. Inshallah, also be relayed live online. Maulana Sheikh Jalil Saab will be here for that program, inshallah. So please join us for Urdu poetry, followed by Maulana's speech, inshallah, next Sunday, inshallah, at 3 p.m. Inshallah, try to do our programs on time. If you can just please cooperate with us. If you're here before 3 o'clock, that we really highly appreciate it. Makes it easier for us to start our program on time if everybody is here, or most of the people are here. With that, I'd like to request Maulana Khan to start the program. Salawat.
ایک دفعہ سورہ فاتحہ کی تلاوت کر کے سید کاظم حسین موسوی، صالحہ موسوی، سید مہدی حسن جعفری اور سیدہ جعفری کی روح کے ساتھ أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الباصفين الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين وبالقاسم محمد أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وإذ تأذن ربكم لئن شكرتم لأزيدنكم ولئن كفرتم إن عذابي لشديد. صدق الله العلي العظيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Condolences to all the mu'mineen and mu'minat on this sad occasion. And we convey our condolences to Imam of our time on this day on which we commemorate the shahadat of our seventh Imam, Imam Moosa ibn Ja'far al-Gallo alayhi salatu wasalam. And of course, I mentioned this last night as well in the Majlis that the way this shahadat is commemorated in Iraq, it is considered to be, a second Arba'in. Arba'in Husseini is one thing. Of course, nothing to be compared to that. An amount of people that now have started going for this walk, this mashi, this ziyarat. Similar ihtimam takes place in Iraq for the shahadat of seventh Imam, where people from many parts of Iraq start walking weeks in advance so that they can reach Kadhemiyya on the day of shahadat. And so flood of people gather, rain or shine, no matter how cold or hot the weather be. And it's, of course, a mesmerizing feeling if you have ever been part of it. Tonight, in this Majlis, if you remember, if your memories serve, that last year I also spoke to this Majlis Allah. And when I spoke to this Majlis Allah last year, I was given a task to speak about dua associated with our seventh Imam, known as Dua Joshan As-Saghir. We're all accustomed to Dua Joshan Al-Kabir. We all recited this Dua Joshan Kabir, during the month of Ramadan. There's a special, ihtimam for this dua, especially on the nights of Qadr, where people gather in large number. Segments of this dua are recited. People want to recite, take part in the recitation. I'll recite 5, you recite 10, and so on and so forth. Cumulative effort, people coming together and doing this in congregation and in Jamaat. But of course, it's worth it because of the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that are mentioned in each segment of that dua. And highly recommended by Ma'asumeen. And similar is this dua, which is of course shorter in length, called Dua Joshan Saghir, which is associated with our seventh Imam, who taught this dua to us. And the reason that he was given these words, that he has seen that Moosa ibn Mahdi, who was trying to kill Imam alayhi salatu wassalam, and the family of Imam was worried that he might harm Imam. Imam alayhi salatu wassalam said the first letter that comes from Baghdad will not be the death sentence for me, rather it will be a death sentence for this individual, Moosa ibn Mahdi, who was planning and plotting to kill me. And Imam spoke with this confidence because he saw in the dream the Holy Prophet Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa giving him this basharat, which was based on what is going to transpire. So Imam recited this dua, and then he taught this dua to his companions, to his family members. And the reason I chose this ayat from Surah Ibrahim, ayat number 7, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِن تَعَذَّنَا وَإِذْ تَعَذَّنَ رَبُّكُمْ لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ وَإِن كَفَرْتُمْ إِنَّ عَذَابِي لَشَدِيدٌ. That indeed it is the command of your Rabb to be thankful. لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ, if you are thankful, sigha, conditional sentence, right? In shakartum. Whenever there's conditional sentence, the reply is already usually there at the end of the sentence. Similar to how you and I say, if you're going, then I'll go. So my going depends on what? You're going. If you're going to go, then I'll go. So this is conditional sentence. In Arabic, you have similar conditional sentence. In shakartum. If you are thankful, if you are grateful, then what will happen? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will increase you. The increment did not come in the method that لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَعَزِيدَنَّ نِعْمَتَكُمْ, that I will increase your ni'mat. Because I will increase you. What's the difference between the two? At one point you give something, or at one point you invest something. Say you invest $100 and you get, for example, double the price back, or your investment is double, $200. What happened? You invested and you got your share doubled. That's not what Allah is saying over here. That if you're thankful, this ni'mah that I gave you, I will double that, or I'll triple that, or I'll quadruple that. No, that's not what is being said here. He's saying, لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. You yourself will be growing. There will be increment in you as a human being. Your personality will receive an increment, a growth. And that is what is being referred to. Yeah, things that we have can be doubled and then they'll be lost again. But that which remains is your own being and personality. That is being doubled here, or tripled here, or quadrupled over here. So Allah did not say that I will increase your ni'mat. Rather, I will increase you. وَإِن كَفَرْتُمْ. And this is also important. He didn't say, if you are ungrateful to me, then I will decrease you. That should have been the answer. If you are going to go ahead and align the ayat. لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ وَإِن كَفَرْتُمْ. Whatever the opposite of azidanna is, I will remove you or I will decrease you. Right? If that should have been said, but Allah said no. وَإِن كَفَرْتُمْ إِنَّ عَذَابِي لَشَدِيدٌ. Nothing is being said. You're not even being threatened. You're not even being given any sort of ultimatum. Just know that my adhab is shadid. Just know that my adhab is severe. You say to a child, you can play over here. But if you break something, then what's going to happen? You don't say what I'm going to do. You just say, well, just know what's going to happen. So that itself is, instilling this fear in the child to be careful when they're walking around over here, when they're playing, for example. Just from the, part of example that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to establish over here. Why did I choose this ayat? When I want to talk about this dua joshan, saghir. Because one of the things this dua does to you, that if you were not already, it makes you an individual who appreciates how to be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Many of us have ways of expressing ourselves. Some of us are shy. We may not be very expressive. With other people, with our friends, with our colleagues, even with our spouses. We might not be that expressive. There's nothing wrong in being, showing this emotion. But this dua, if you're not, some people will thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by saying alhamdulillah. But this alhamdulillah will just be the muttering of their tongue. He says, in order to get this alhamdulillah down to your heart so that it comes from samim qalb, recite this dua. You know what this dua does to you? This dua makes you someone who's grateful. This dua makes you someone who's shakir. This dua makes you someone who realizes, knows that how important it is to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but at the same time you become the one who is thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the quality which is sometimes lacking in us. Right? We want to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we don't know how to thank Him. You know what Imam does here in this dua, which I will recite a few segments of it to you. What Imam does here, he compares. He puts a parallel. Oh Allah, so many people are doing this, or so many people are suffering. Well, I'm not suffering. Oh Allah, so many people are sick. They're going through a difficult time. Well, I'm not going through a difficult time. Oh Allah, so many people are deprived. They don't have anything to go by. Well, I'm not that person. By doing this comparison, usually we do this all the time in our lives. You do this to your kids. Tell your kids that you should be thankful that, mashallah, you have everything that you need. When the children have grown, you want to give them some life lessons. You teach them how to appreciate what you have and not squander what you have. You speak to them like this. Imam is giving this comparison. And that's where the beauty of this dua is. It makes it so unique. If you haven't recited it once in your life, I urge you tonight, go pull up duas.org, Dua Joshan Saghir, from Imam Moosa al-Kadhem, alayhi salatu wasalam. So Imam, of course, I explained this last time as well, that what is the word Joshan means. Joshan means a chest. That's why it is recommended to make a hirs or amulet of this dua. You have the hirs that you hang as a necklace for protection. There are many ayat and riwayat that could be put into these amulets. Just the other day, we were talking about Surah Falaq and Surah Nas. Some of you were there. That these surahs are put into these amulets. They're put into these hirs. And then there's Hirz Jawad, referred to our ninth Imam, ninth Imam, Imam Muhammad Taqi Jawad, that Hirz Jawad is associated with him. These are there for your protection. Let's look at that Imam in this dua, al-Joshan al-Saghir, is for repelling enemy, is for attaining the maqam al-shukr that I said before, in calamities and in struggles, increasing our sabr and getting spirit of liveliness. These are some of the benefits that you get by just merely reciting this dua. When you recite dua, just worth mentioning here as well, dua is not for recitation. Dua padhi nahi jati, Maulana Marhum kehte the dua mangi jati hai. Dua is for you to ask, not just to read. Right? Its recitation can be done by anyone. That's not that we have to finish reading this dua as quickly as possible. Sometimes we get caught that Shab Juma Dua Kumail has to be recited. So we have this time that we have to finish this Dua Kumail, Hadith Kisa, other du'as that we recite, we have to finish reciting them. It's not about finishing the dua. It's about focusing on what are you asking from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why we emphasize a great deal on reciting the du'as in Arabic? It should be not recited in Urdu. You should learn the meaning of it. Don't doubt about that. Read the meaning alongside with it. But read it in Arabic. Why? Because these are the words of Imam Masoom. Imam Masoom knows how to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He knows how to open those knots which are in a way tied up. Imam knows those specific words. That's why you have to utter them the way Imam has uttered. Translation would be the translation of a person like me who is translated in his own words. The dua, which is the word of Imam alayhi salatu wassalam. So use it the way Amir al-Mu'mineen is saying in Dua Kumail when he says, oh Allah, Ya Sari ar-Rida, Ighfir liman la yamliku illa dua. Now look at this word. Now my topic is not Dua Kumail, but it came up. Look at the word, Ya Sari ar-Rida. Have you ever thought of addressing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with this sifat? You refer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Malik, Ya Quddus, Ya Mu'ad. All the sifat that you find in Quran, read Surah Hashr and you'll find all those sifat lined up in it. But have you ever thought someone would call Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Sari ar-Rida, the one whose satisfaction is attained so quickly? Meaning, if someone is at odds with me, I said something, Dr. Saab didn't like what I said and he didn't want to speak to me. Maulana is sitting over there. He heard something I said and then he said, Maulana said something, I don't want to talk to him. It might take me a while when someone is at odds with me to go up to them and say, hey, man, how long is it going to take for you to keep it that way? Especially in between the parents, especially between the siblings, and even I've heard between the spouses as well. That something happened, now they're at odds and they're not talking to each other. Few days pass by and they're not talking to each other. They'll come back to being normal again. But these few days, they're not talking. How difficult it is to get someone's razayat, how difficult it is. Imam is saying, while it is difficult to get the razayat of your loved one, your friend, your family, your child, your spouse, getting the razayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the easiest thing. Oh, the one whose satisfaction is sought, within a few seconds. All you've got to do is say, astaghfar, tawbah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's, satisfaction is in your hands. That's why Imam followed up the sentence by saying what? La yamliku liman la yamliku illa du'a. You thought this wealth is yours? You thought these children are yours? You thought this life is yours? You thought everything that you have in this world is yours? No, this is here for you for a while to use. It'll be taken away from you. You have no control whatsoever. If there's anything that you can call to be your possession, it's dua. If there's anything that you can say, it is mine, that is in your tamalluk, that is in your tamliq, that is in your possession, is this dua. That's why dua is referred to as what? Silahul mu'min. Mu'min does not need weapons. The weapon of a mu'min is this dua. Know the effects of the dua. The moment you open the mouth and you start asking these words, how quickly. In fact, you should have husnul one with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that, oh Allah, the moment I'm making this dua, as if the reply to my dua is waiting at the threshold of the door. Abhi dua mukammal nahi hui, jawab yahan pe hazir hai, mawjood hai. Ask dua with such intention. So in this dua, Imam repeats this sentence several times. Kam min abdin amsa wa asbaha, and ends that thought each time by thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by saying waj'alni li ni'ma'ika min ash-shakirin wa li alaika min adh-dhakirin. He begins the sentence by saying, Kam min abdin amsa wa asbaha. How many of your servants wake up in the morning and spend the day? And day to day, basically, that's how I would translate this. Many of your servants every single day are like this. And then Imam concludes by saying, Waj'alni, make me, li'na'ma'ika, as far as your ni'mat are concerned, mina shakirin, in front of your ni'mat, consider me to be amongst those who are shakirin, wa li'alaika min al-dhakirin. And as far as, again, the word ala, as you read in Surah Rahman, the same word ala is being used, which is also synonym to the ni'mat that are bestowed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, my God, many an enemy drew up the sword of hostility against me. There were many people who stood up, and similarly is the reason why this person who said Mahdi was the reason this dua was taught. He was intending to take the life of Imam. And so Imam ﷺ is teaching this dua that if you're facing that sort of enemy who's about to strike you with the sword, Imam uses this word, Ilahi, wa kam min baghin barani bi makayidihi wa nasaba li ashraka masayidihi. He said, my God, many a disobedient tyrant has tried treacherously to oppress me, laid traps to catch me. There were many people who were after Imams, who were trying to lay traps. For example, how many times did Harun try to send women to the prison where Imam was in order to lure Imam into committing something haram, and he'll be able to show it to the world, look, these are your Imams. But the contrary to that, what would happen to these failed plots, these individuals who were sent to lure into Imam to doing something wrong, those people had such immense effect, because what Imam did to this lady, he showed it to her between his two fingers. Here, look at what I'm about to show you. And she sees a nazara from the paradise. He says, these Hurul Ain are there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised. What do I have to do with that? With something that you are presenting to me in this world. Imam then goes on with his worship. Later on, it is found out that that lady became one of the Ubad, amongst those who were the Ibadat Guzar. Harun said, I sent you to lure Imam into committing something haram, yet you became one of the Ibadat Guzar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How many of these prison guards were appointed to be strict with Imam, to make sure that Imam doesn't breathe easily? Yet what happened with the akhlaq of Imam? All of these people turned around and said, every time we want to show some sort of severity to him, well, we find him that he spends the night standing and performing the qiyam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we see that throughout the day, he's spending fasting. So what do you want us to do to make it even more difficult for him? He's not trying to run away. In fact, remember what Imam did? Imam said, oh Allah, I ask you to give me time by which I can focus on doing your ibadat kama haqqahu. And you gave me this opportunity by placing me to the prison. Just on this thought, past couple of years have been very difficult. Alhamdulillah, things are now easing away, but it's been very difficult. There were times where, well, not in this country, but other countries, there were lockdowns, right? You could not even go out the house. The places were shut. Everything was shut because of this coronavirus. And therefore, a lot of people started getting aggressive. They started complaining. You saw many countries, they had, revolts. They were, people coming out on the streets. They were speaking against the government and the policies and all that stuff still happening just in our neighbor country, right? In Canada, what happened? All this is happening. Why? Because people said, well, this is enough. How much do you want us to be locked down into our houses and not go out? And how are we going to put food on our table? Because of these valid reasons, people had their agitation. But you and I, with everything that we had, we were also sometimes getting sick of it. And there would be complaint on our tongues. Look at it from this aspect. You weren't thrown into a dungeon. You weren't thrown into a prison. And it wasn't a prison which was dark. It wasn't a prison where you couldn't even stand up properly. It wasn't a prison where all the facilities were provided to you. No, it was a prison which is small, where it's very even difficult to even stand up erect completely. It's dark and no facilities available over there. Could anything be worse than that? You know what Imam turns around and says to Allah, oh Allah, thank you for providing this opportunity to me so that I can spend this time exclusively for your sake. Because nothing else is bothering me now. I don't have to worry about anything else right now. I don't have to go about my business now. I don't have to go out and work anymore. I don't have to go out and earn money because I can't. I'm stuck here in this prison. But how do you turn that negative into a positive? Having this energy, looking at, oh Allah, thank you. You gave me this opportunity. There's maqsad behind it. Now what am I going to do? Sit idly with my hand on top of another hand that I'm just going to focus, oh, what can I do and stare at this ceiling? I'm going to utilize this time to the fullest by doing your ibadat kama haqqahu, the way I was not able to do your ibadat. Salawat bi Muhammad. He said, Ilahi, wa kam min sahaibin makruhin qad jallaytaha, wa kam min dhanni hasanin haqqaqta. Oh Allah, oh my Lord, many a dark cloud bearing sorrow and misery has been dispersed by you. Many a hopeful expectations I cherished, which you realized, which you actualized, which you made into being a reality, which were not there for me. Allahumma fahada maqamu abdin dalil. Oh Allah, this is the maqam of that servant of yours who's very, very low. أعترف لك بالتوحيد, who's acknowledging your wahdaniyat, your tawheed, your oneness, وأقر على نفسه بالتقصير, and he is doing iqrar that yes, there is shortcoming as far as my actions are concerned. You know, this is the beauty of the kalam of Masumin, that even you hear from the kalam of other imams, probably our fourth imam, who said, Ilahi, in kana fihi naqsun, O Allah, after having performed a salat. Oh Allah, if there was any naqs in my salat, if there was any defect in my salat, oh Allah, you are bigger than to go ahead and point out the naqs that is found in my salat, the defect that is found in my salat. Imam, if your salat is defective, then what about our salat? This is not that Imam's salat is defective. This is coming from the utmost humility and humbleness in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's what Imams are trying to inculcate into our hearts as well. When he says, Ilahi, kam min abdin amsa wa asbaha fi karbil mawti wa hashrajat as-sabr. I'll share only a few lines with you. Of course, I don't have time to get in the entire dua. That is up for you to go read the translation, and really enjoy the dua. Read every sentence. And in fact, have someone recite it for you. There are a lot of YouTube videos available. Have some beautiful voice read the dua for you while you focus on the meaning of it and enjoy this dua. Read it. Listen. He said, Ilahi, come min abdid. How many people, amsa wa asbaha, many living beings suffers the constant agony of death, day in, day out, fi karbil maut, and here's the rattling sound passing through his gasping throat. Imam is referring to, again, as I mentioned, the purpose was to make you someone who is thankful. Purpose was to show you some scenes and pictures which are there in our memory, but to bring them forward. You know how some things go in the back burner, some things go in the back where you're not even thinking about it anymore? They're there. But Imam is just trying to bring that in the front frame. There's something else in the front frame. Imam wants to bring this frame to be the first frame. What is this frame? Imam is saying, oh my Lord, how many living beings are suffering constant agony of death? How many are, the death is about to leave, the life is about to leave from their throats. They're going through this suffering. Yet, oh Allah, I am not suffering that way right now. Oh Allah, I'm not feeling that way right now. Oh Allah, alhamdulillah, you have given me sihat. How many people are suffering with corona? How many people are suffering with other, terminal, chronic, illnesses out there? How many people have these illnesses? They're constant, they're taking so many pills every single day for. Oh Allah, I don't have that issue. That concept is going to make you do what? Realize the beauty and the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and make you to be thankful servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, what ilahi kam min abdin amsa wa asbaha saqiman muji'an fi annatin wa abilin yataqallabu fi ghammihi la yajidu muhitan. Oh Allah, many a living being is ailing. They're suffering, they're ailing, they're going through difficult time, constantly in pain. Have a visit to some of these facilities at your spare time. If you haven't visited already, go visit some of these facilities where you have these people who are handicapped, and some don't have, legs, some don't have feet, some don't have other body parts, and how difficult it is for them. Remember the story of a person who said, poverty hit me so much that I did not even have shoes to wear. I said, that's it. I was going to go ahead and go to the masjid and complain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, as soon as I set out to go to masjid to complain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do shikayat, and open my mouth for shikayat, the fact that I've become so poor that I don't even have shoes in my feet. He said, I ran into a man who was sitting, smiling, without any feet. Both of his feet were cut off. Yet that man was still smiling and, going about his business and not complaining. That moment I looked at myself and said, I'm complaining. I don't even have shoes while Allah has taken away the feet of this individual. Can't even walk anymore. At least I'm able to walk. If you haven't visited, visit. the places, orphanages. I tell you, I got the opportunity to visit an orphanage. Went to Islamabad, there's Safina Welfare Society where there's an orphanage. About 50 orphans brought from Azad Kashmir and other places. Tragic, tragic stories behind every single child. I sat with them, spent an afternoon with them. I was with those kids, they were talking, they were very lively. Of course, they've spent some time now away from, of course, their parents have died. Both parents are dead. Some mothers are still alive, but they're living in this dormitory, this hostel, and they're studying and they're being provided for and living with their peers. Spent an afternoon with them, talked to a few of them who are older, heard their stories. Such tragic stories behind each individual. How they suffered. Some of them remember how their parents died and how they became orphans. Just sitting with them, I didn't contribute monetary, financially to them. Just sitting with them, spending time with them. I had the riwayat in my mind already that Allah, the Prophet of Islam says, whoever passes his hand on top of the orphan, the amount of hair this person touches, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant him that much reward in the hereafter. Those riwayat are running. Again, even at that point when I'm visiting an orphanage, I'm thinking about rewards. Allahu Akbar. How much insan is after these rewards that you don't do anything khalis. That even for this, you're looking for a reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm visiting an orphanage. But sitting with them, the life lesson that I got in that 1 or 2 hours, I think it'll take a lifetime to learn all those life lessons. So anyone can provide for the orphans. Anyone can provide financial support to them. Many of us, I'm sure, still are doing it. Even living here, we have the capability to provide to many back home by sending some money, by sending some of the stuff. We're providing for them. How many of us have sat down with an orphan, put up a hand on their head, giving them a sense of an older brother or giving them a sense of being a fatherly figure to them? Because that's something which is lacking in their lives. You learn that with this life experience. If you haven't done so, go visit. That's why Rasulullah said, we shouldn't be looking for shortcuts. But if there's a shortcut to Jannat, to paradise, it is to go ahead and do the kifalat of an orphan. How many times you've heard this riwayat where the Holy Prophet said, Ana wa kafilul yatim kahataini fil jannah. Me and the one who does the kifalat, takes the custody of a yatim, will be like this in paradise. And he pointed with both of his fingers, the asabi and this middle finger, said like this, meaning what? He will be with me, the one who takes care of an orphan. This is also commemoration of the wafat of Hazrat Abu Talib. If you take care of an ordinary orphan, you are with Rasulullah. But if the orphan is Rasul himself, just imagine the status of that individual known as Hazrat Abu Talib alayhi salatu wasalam. He said, Ilahi wa Sayyidi, kam min abdin amsa wa asbaha maghlulan mukabbalan fil hadid bi'ayd al-urdat la yarhamunahu faqidan min ahlihi wa baladihi. Each word, my God and Master, many a living being is oppressed and kept prisoner. Imam is also going to be in prison for 14 years. He didn't spend the entire lifetime, but it seems like 14 years is a lifetime to spend in a prison. And it wasn't, as I described, not a prison where you would have all the facilities available. You couldn't even see too far away. You couldn't even stand properly, such a prison. So he said, many a living being is oppressed and kept prisoner day after day under the harsh control of the ruthless enemies and infidels, separated from his family and children. Oh Allah, I am not like that right now. I am not in a prison right now. I am not separated with my family and my children. I am not suffering the way these prisoners are suffering. So thank to you, O Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is how Imam wants to encourage you to become a thankful heart. Understand that those who are suffering, while you feel pity for those people, but on the contrary, you should feel thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has kept you away from these masa'ib. Now, having musibah is not a bad thing. If you are suffering constantly, it's not such a bad thing, that you're suffering constantly, that you're going through pains and you're going through difficult time. A lot of times people look at you and they feel pity. How sad it is that so and so, they lost their loved one. The person lost their job. Now they're into this calamity. Now another calamity is knocking on their door, and this calamity and that calamity, one after another. And you start feeling pity for such individuals. They themselves start feeling bad for themselves, and they then open up their mouth to ask for help if they can. Don't feel sad if you are hit with calamity after calamity. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not put the burden upon you if you're not capable of bearing. La yukallifu Allahu nafsan illa wus'aha, duna wus'aha. Allah does not put a burden on the nafs which is not capable of bearing it. You are capable of bearing it, that's why there's more masa'ib written for you. Don't think that you are wretched or oppressed or something that you have done in the past which is coming back to haunt you. Now you're getting all these troubles. If that was the case, how would you explain the problems and the calamities Ma'sumin faced? They never committed anything haram. They never committed any sin. They never even did any makruh. How would they be suffering? If there was anyone who was suffering the most, it was none other than Mahbub Ilahi, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is born and over. Then the daunting task of leading this community, providing prosperity for them, and then suffering through the hands of the same people. When he's going somewhere, they're striking and throwing stones at him. They're mistreating him. All that is happening to the Holy Prophet. You think he's unfortunate or less fortunate from that aspect? No, he's the beloved of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if anything we learn from this, the more masa'ib come to you, the more beloved of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala you are. The less masa'ib for you, maybe Allah does not like you as much. But also be careful. If you've never faced any musibah, now that is not true. Everyone has faced some sort of musibah in their life. But if you see constantly, there's a favor after favor after favor after ni'mat after ni'mat after ni'mat without any gap. So I'm alhamdulillah thanking Allah for all the ni'mat that are coming. Ma'sumin mentioned that is also a place and a time for you to be worried that you're receiving musibah, ni'mat after ni'mat after ni'mat after ni'mat without any hiccup in between. Again, my mind doesn't serve me well. Riwayat also said that a musibah should visit a mu'min every now and then. Now, how often? It's in riwayat. Every now and then a musibah should visit you. But if it's not visiting you, that means there's something wrong. You got to start checking, get this checkup done. Why is it that I haven't been faced with some sort of calamity? Only ni'mat are coming in my way. I say, well, why are you doing kufran and ni'mat? Achha hai aane do, burai kya hai isme? Don't be ungrateful. No, I'm grateful, but I'm worried also. And I like to give the example of that cartoon show, Tom and Jerry. The younger kids don't know this. They didn't watch this. We watched it. You know how Tom the cat was always in trouble and Jerry would always get away. Tom would go ahead and place some pieces of, cheese all the way where he would go ahead and put the trap at the end. Of course, the cartoon was in favor of the mouse. So the mouse would pick up all the pieces of cheese and even the trap would not work. Only it'll work, man. The Tom will go ahead and say, what's wrong with it? But that's not the reality of the life, is it? If you see that there's ni'mat after ni'mat, there's a cheese after cheese after cheese after cheese, there's a trap at the end. You should also be ready for that and have a check of yourself as to how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a calamity is not facing. Ilahi kam min abdin amsa wa asbaha yuqasil harb wa mubasharat al-qital bi nafsihi. Oh my God, many a living being is constantly in the midst of fierce wars and challenged in the battlefield, surrounded by all the armed enemies. Now, God knows what's happening in Ukraine, who's right, who's not. But at least what it seems, I'm not here to give any political statements, but just feel for the people of Ukraine. Just like we feel for the people of Palestine, just like we feel for the people of Yemen, that they're living in war-torn countries. while they don't know when the siren will blow and they'll have to evacuate. Is that the case with you? While you're living here, is that the case with you? No, alhamdulillah, it's not the case with you. There are no sirens going to go out and blow for you to be worried about. You're going to wake up in the morning, go to your work, or work from home, or however you're doing these things these days, and you'll be fine. None of that will happen to you. So with that in mind, what's happening in Ukraine, how people, their sleeps are now taken away, how people are living for the past so many years in Yemen and Palestine, constant struggle. Think about how lucky you are. And with that concept, you will be then able to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and appreciate the favors that He has bestowed upon you. Salawat bi Muhammad. I will conclude this dua with the last segment of it. That Imam says, Sayyidi wa Mawlaya wa kam min abdin amsa wa asbaha qad istamarra alayhi al-qada. My God, my Lord, and my Master. In the last occasion, Imam mentions 3 of the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If those who attended that majlis, the difference between Surah Nas and Surah Falaq was what? In Surah Falaq, you had Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mention 3 of the shar, right? First, you asked, Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq. In sharri ma khalaq. What are the things that Allah has created which are shar? The first was Ghasiqin idha waqab, the night and the darkness of the night. Naffathat fil uqad, the knots which on their blow upon them. Wa hasidin iza hasad, the hasad and the envy of those who are envious. But you sought protection for Allah once. Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq. In front of the 3 calamities which are mentioned over here. I don't know why there are always 3 calamities. And then on the other surah, last surah, Surah Nas, you find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions only 1 calamity, only mentions 1 shar, while 3 times we are seeking the refuge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the difference between the 2 surahs. Qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas, the Rabb of Nas, the Lord of the people. Malikin Nas, the King of the people. Ilahin Nas, the Ma'bud of the people. 3 times you sought protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, taking refuge in Him from 1 thing. Min sharril waswasil khannas. That's 1 thing that you are seeking protection from. The shar, the evil of the whispering of khannas, shaitan. And then rest is just the explanation of how he does his whispering. So you see the difficulty that we are facing of the shaitan. 3 times you should seek protection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when it comes to the physical calamities that are in front of you, only once seeking the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would be enough for you. It says here, Ilahi, oh my Lord, oh my Master, oh my God, many a living being is permanently bound to be unalterable destiny. They're headed in that direction. It will not change. The destiny of death, which surrounds him from all sides. And then Imam concludes by saying, Salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammadin waj'alni li'an'amika min ash-shakirin wa li'alaika min al-dhakirin. Bless Muhammad and his family, and let me be among those who thank you and for your bounties, and remember as far as your favors are concerned. That's why you repeat this. That's why you repeat this ayat in Surah Rahman, not once, not twice, 31 times it is. 30, 31, 32 times. And which one of the ni'mat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will you then deny? Will you then reject? You can't reject any of the bounties. With that concept of thankfulness and the bounty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the ways that we can be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is by showing the proper usage of the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If He has given us and done some favor to us, which He has done from the very beginning up until now, every moment, every life, every breath that we have taken is a ni'mat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why in Ta'uddu ni'mat Allah La tuhsuha. If you were to count the ni'mat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will not be able to enumerate them. You will not be able to count how many ni'mat and the favors He has bestowed on you. The easiest way to realize the ni'mat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is look at how many ni'mat and the favors you've received from your parents, how many things you've received from another individual. And the one who's unable to thank another individual can't thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So with all the ni'mat that He has bestowed upon you, with everything that He has given to you, what is the best way to be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Allah mentions Himself, use my favors the way they should be used. Use them in the proper way. Do not misuse them. In other words, don't misuse the favors that have been bestowed upon you. Meaning, if I have given you these eyes as a ni'mat, go ask someone who's blind how big a ni'mat this is. You only realize it when you lose this favor. I've given you these ears to listen to that which is halal. I've given you these eyes to look at that which is permissible. I've given you this tongue to use for that which is allowed. I've given you all of these organs to be used in the proper manner. Yet if you go out and use them in improper manner, then not only that you're not thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's not kufran and ni'mat only, but you're also committing a sin. You know, sometimes in front of shukr, you have kufr. Shukr comes from, that which is exposed. Something which is exposed. On the contrary, you have kufr. What is the meaning of kufr? To hide, to conceal. That's why in Surah Hadid, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls the farmers what? Kuffar. A'jaba al-kuffar. Those who put these seeds in the ground, they were surprised. Kuffar is referring to who? Kuffar? No, kuffar is referring to the farmers. Because they hide this under the ground. So kufran and ni'mat in front of being thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'll bring you towards the end. The Imam alayhi salatu wasalam spent about 20 years under the imamat of his father. And then the remaining 35 years were the time of the imamat of this great imam of ours. Amongst those 35 years, 14 years were spent in prison. That prison was not an ordinary prison. Imam ﷺ continued to guide and provide help and support to whoever he could have, even being inside the prison. I don't have time, and I've taken all of your time. There are many stories associated how Imam had Ali ibn Yaqeen be part of the false government, tyrant government, only to keep an eye on what's happening. While they were trying to keep an eye and have surveillance on Imam, Imam was doing the same thing to them as well, that we are keeping an eye on what you are doing as well. He was using Ali ibn Yaqeen, Imam, for the betterment of the Shias around him. One of the titles of Imam is Abdus Saleh. Why is he called Abdus Saleh? This is not his kunyat. His kunyat was Abul Hasan. Why is he called Abdus Saleh? Because Abdus Saleh refers to a righteous servant. Anyone would be called righteous servant. If you go to Arab world, if they don't know your name, they'll call you Muhammad. It's a common name. Abdus Saleh would be so common that they will not raise any eyebrows, because this is the kalam of Abdus Saleh. So therefore, all the riwayat that we have received in that taqiyya dawr, in the dawr of Imam Moosa Kadhem, which was in dissimulation, come from Abdus Saleh because of taqiyya. So that this is the kalam of Imam, still reaches the people. Look at the difficulty of the time of 7th Imam. The waqi' fakh takes place in the time of Imam as well, which was again described as second Karbala. The way these people were treated and killed at that point. Imam's wiladat, of course, takes place in the place called Abwa, which is between Makkah and Medina. This tells you that Imam's mother, Hamida or Humayda al-Barbariya, she was pregnant when our 6th Imam went to Hajj. Coming back from Hajj on the way, in the place called Abwa, his mother gave birth to him. Imam was born in Abwa, not in Medina, not in Makkah, on the way coming back from Makkah after having done Hajj. Just emphasizing how important this ibadat is and how we do not pay attention to this ibadah. Many people who are capable of performing this Hajj, now due to Corona, you cannot go, but without that, you're capable of performing this Hajj, people will come up with these ideas. अरे कुफार की हुकूमत है, उनको पैसे देंगे आप, वहां पे जाएंगे आप, उससे बेहतर है कि आप किसी को ये करा दें. You know, it's been ruled by these Wahhabis and Salafis. You don't want to spend and make their economy great. It has nothing to do with their economy. Let them make money if they are. This is your ibadat. Unfortunately, it's in their hands. Nothing can be done. But don't think that way, that this ibadat is any less. A person who missed the Hajj could not go. I mean, he could have gone, but he didn't go. And he came to Rasulullah and he said, "Oh, Rasulullah, Hajj was wajib upon me. I did not go to Hajj. What can I do as a kafara and a compensation?" Rasulullah looked at Mount Abu Qubais and he said, if this entire mountain was converted into the pure gold and you gave that pure gold as sadaqah in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it will not compensate for the Hajj that you missed. That's how important this ibadah is. That's why sixth Imam is taking his wife while she's pregnant to Hajj, and on the way back. And even those days, today the travel is not that difficult. You get on a flight, in 10 hours, you're there. Travel from Mecca and Medina, 5-6 days of travel by horses or camels. That's how they used to travel. Nonetheless, Imam Moosa Kadhem's Shahadat is also tragic in the same way. 14 years Imam spends in one prison after another, all of whom were ordered to make sure that Imam does not breathe easily. I say, how much worse can you make it for Imam that he's already in this sort of a dungeon where he can't even breathe properly? How much more difficult can you make it upon him? But because of the husn khulq of Imam, that these prison guards, they would let Imam roam around. They would not take it so difficult upon him. Why? Because all we see from this man is that he's always performing the ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He does nothing else. We've never heard, we haven't gone close when he's in his sajda to hear maybe he's saying something against Hukumat al-Waqt. No, all he was doing is praising to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, asking for forgiveness and performing istighfar. Imam was sent to prison after prison until he was sent to the prison of Sindi ibn Shahik, this mal'oon, who really made it difficult for Imam. And eventually Imam was poisoned and Imam was killed in this ruthless manner. Harun wanted to show, the Hukumat al-Waqt, the time wanted to show that Imam was killed. Imam died a natural death and fitri तौर पे इमाम की शहादत वाक़ई हुई है, लेकिन उसके बावजूद जब इमाम के जसद मुबारक को लाया गया है और जसरे का बगदाद में रखा गया, कहते हैं कि 3 दिन तक इमाम का जनाजा उस जस्र के ऊपर, उस पुल के ऊपर रखा रहा। अरे कोई आ नहीं सकता था शहर बगदाद में, कोई आना चाहता तो ये ताबूत बीच में होता, कोई बाहर जाना चाहता तो ये ताबूत बीच में होता। लोग परेशान हुए, अरे ये किसका ताबूत है? किसी को खबर न हुई कि मूसा बिन जाफर शहीद कर दिए गए। पता चला कि हुकूमत का ये इक़दाम था, जितना छुपाना चाहा उतना ही ज्यादा और अफशा हुआ। इमाम के जनाजे पे जनाजा अदा किया गया, नमाज जनाजा अदा की गई, इमाम के जनाजे को उठाया गया, एहतमाम से ले जाके इमाम की तदफीन होती है काज़मैन में। मैं कहूँगा मौला बड़ी सख्त जिंदगी गुजारी, अरे 1 नहीं 10 नहीं 14 साल जिंदा में काटे। अरे आप पे मुसीबतों के अंबार टूट पड़े, लेकिन आई अपने जज की मुसीबत, इमाम ज़ैनुल आबिदीन की मुसीबत। अरे उनके बाबा का लाशा 3 दिन तक दश्ते करबला में पड़ा रहा। अरे बीमार इमाम को इजाजत नहीं है कि बाप के लाशे को मट्टी से ढक दे, अरे बाप को दफना दे। बिलजाज इमाम आते हैं इन आखिरी रसूमात को पूरा करने। मैं कहूँगा मौला मुसीबत आई, लेकिन इमाम सज्जाद की मुसीबत देखिए, जवाब आएगा ला यौमा कयौमिका وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إن لله وإنا إليه راجعون. اور اللہ ہماری سے بات قبول فرما، ہم گناہ گار ہیں، ہمارے گناہوں سے درگزر فرما، ہمیں اہل بیت علیہ الصلوۃ والسلام کے نقش قدم چلنے کی توفیق عطا فرما، ہمیں ان کی تعلیمات پر عمل کرنے کی توفیق عطا فرما، ان کے ظہور میں تعجیل فرما، ان کے اعمال اور انصار میں شمار کرنا، ربنا تقبل منا انك انت السميع العليم.
Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Hussein.
آج بغداد میں کوئی قیدی ہو گیا ہے رضا مولا. آج بغداد میں کوئی قیدی ہو گیا ہے رضا مولا. آج بغداد میں کوئی قیدی ہو گیا ہے رضا مولا. آج بغداد میں کوئی قیدی ہو گیا ہے رضا مولا. آج بغداد میں کوئی قیدی ہو گیا ہے رضا مولا. آج بغداد میں کوئی قیدی ہو گیا ہے رضا مولا. دل پہ تیری غریب مانگا ہے جنازہ رکھا رضا مولا. آج بغداد میں کوئی قیدی ہو گیا ہے رضا مولا. ایک بیوی زنان بیٹی ہے، کسی نے جانے اسے قبر کی ہے. ایک بیوی زنان بیٹی ہے، کسی نے جانے اسے قبر کی ہے. ہاتھ پیروں میں اپنے رکھے ہوئے آئیے فاطمہ رضا مولا. آج بغداد میں کوئی قیدی ہو گیا ہے رضا مولا. آج بغداد میں کوئی قیدی ہو گیا ہے رضا مولا. رات سے ملتنا چلا ہے جو گزرتا ہے اس پہ ہنستا ہے. رات سے ملتنا چلا ہے جو گزرتا ہے اس پہ ہنستا ہے. بے بسی میں تمہارے بابا کی رو رہی ہے قضا رضا مولا. آج بغداد میں کوئی قیدی ہو گیا ہے رضا مولا. آج بغداد میں کوئی قیدی ہو گیا ہے رضا مولا. ایک منادی ندائی دیتا ہے، رافضیوں کا مولا مارا گیا. ایک منادی ندائی دیتا ہے، رافضیوں کا مولا مارا گیا. آج اولاد پہ محمد हो गया है हर दाम मौला आज बगदाद में कोई कैदी हो गया है हर दाम मौला कभी दादी को याद करता था कभी बेटी को याद करता था कभी दादी को याद करता था कभी बेटी को याद करता था वक्त आखिर उसके होठों पर फातिमा फातिमा रज़ा बोला आज बगदाद में कोई कैदी हो गया है हादसा मौला कल से तेरे गरीब बाबा का जनाजा रखा मौला आज बगदाद में कोई कैदी हो गया है हादसा मौला
مزدوروں کے کاندھوں پر کاظم کا جنازہ ہے مزدوروں کے کاندھوں پر کاظم کا جنازہ ہے مزدوروں کے کاندھوں پر کاظم کا جنازہ ہے مزدوروں کے کاندھوں پر کاظم کا جنازہ بغداد کے قیدی پر بغداد کے قیدی پر زندان بھی ہوتا ہے مزدوروں کے کاندھوں پر کاظم کا جنازہ مزدوروں کے کاندھوں پر کاظم کا جنازہ اس درد تربت میں سجاد قدر پایا زندہ سے نکل کر بھی آزاد نہ ہو پایا پہلا جنازہ جو زنجیروں میں جکڑا مزدوروں کے ہاتھوں پر کاظم کا جنازہ مزدوروں کے ہاتھوں پر کاظم کا جنازہ زنجیروں کو تکتی ہے شانوں کو ملاتی ہے میت کو کبھی اپنی گودی میں اٹھاتی ہے کہاتے ہیں پہلو پر لگتا ہے یہ زہرا ہے مزدوروں کے ہاتھوں پر کاظم کا جنازہ ہے مزدوروں کے ہاتھوں پر کاظم کا جنازہ ہے سردی لہو رو کر سناتے ہیں قدموں کے نشان کے زندہ میں بتاتے ہیں ارے یہ نظر کے عالم میں کس طرح سے درکار ہے مزدوروں کے کانوں پر کاظم کا جنازہ ہے مزدوروں کے کانوں پر کاظم کا جنازہ دونوں گزرتے آپس میں یہ کہتے گھر والے تم یسرف میں عزت رہتے پھر اس کے جنازے پر یہ کون ضعیفہ ہے مزدور کے کانوں پر کادم کا جنازہ ہے مزدور کے کانوں پر کادم کا جنازہ ہے کہتی ہے کوئی بیوی وقت مصیبت کا اب جلد مدینے سے آ جائے رضا آ جا کفن سے بیٹا تیرے بابا ہے مزدور کے کانوں پر کادم کا جنازہ مزدور کے کانوں پر کادم کا جنازہ شبیر کی غربت کا آئے سناتے ہیں سوکھے ہوئے لبیس کے امت کو بتاتے ہیں اس نے دل میں آ کر پانی نہیں پایا ہے مزدور کے کانوں پر کادم کا جنازہ مزدور کے کانوں پر کادم کا جنازہ مزدور کے کانوں پر کادم کا جنازہ ہے
یا حسین یا حسین
ایک غریب الوطن قید میں مر گیا قرب بغداد کے قرب بغداد کے ہے جنازہ رکھا ایک غریب الوطن قید میں مر گیا ایک غریب الوطن قید میں مر گیا بولے آنکھوں سے پانی بہاتے ہوئے ہتھکڑی بیڑیاں رہنے ہوئے قید سجاد کی قید سجاد کی یاد کرتا ہوا غریب الوطن قید میں مر گیا ایک غریب الوطن قید میں مر گیا جس کے 18 بیٹے جوان سال کے اس کی میت کو مزدور لے کر چلے بین کرتی چلی بین کرتی چلی ساتھ میں سیدہ ایک غریب الوطن قید میں مر گیا ایک غریب الوطن قید میں مر گیا اجنبی شہر میں دور ہے وطن تیرے بابا کو دے کون غسلوں کا کون آؤ جلدی وطن آؤ جلدی وطن سے امام رضا غریب الوطن قید میں مر گیا ایک غریب الوطن قید میں مر گیا قید میں چل بسا چاہے کون مکان اب تم نصیروں میں کی کھول دو بیڑیاں تم نے چاہا تھا جو تم نے چاہا تھا جو لوگی ہو گیا غریب الوطن قید میں مر گیا قرب بغداد کے گل بباغات کے جنازہ رکھا یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین حسین مولا حسین مولا حسین مولا حسین مولا حسین مولا.
السلام علیکم السلام علیکم یا رسول اللہ السلام علیکم یا امیر المؤمنین السلام علیکم یا فاطمہ الزہرا سید نساء العالمین السلام علیکم یا حسن المصطفى السلام علیکم یا ابا عبداللہ وعلى الارواح التي حلت بفنائك عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر لحظ مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام عليك يا فريد الغرباء. السلام عليك يا معين زرفاء الفقراء. السلام عليك يا مغيث الشيعة والزوارق النساء. السلام عليك يا أبا الحسن حبيب موسى الرضا والشفين والشفير وهدينا الجزاء. صلواتها على آبائك السبعة والناس الأربعة وقت فواتها المعصومة من رحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا سعد رسول زمان الأمان في زمان الشر الشيطان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان. رضي الله تعالى فرجك وسهل تعالى مخرجك وظهورك وجعلنا من أنصارك وأعوانك. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم كل وليكان الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وخالدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكن الأرض طوعا وتمتعهم فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. اے رب جاں پنجت نے پاک کا صدقہ اس قوم کا دامن ہمیں شبیر سے بھر دے. بچوں کو ادا کر علی اصغر کا تبسم. بوڑھوں کو حبیب ابن مظاہر کی نظر دے. کم سن کو ملائے والولائے اور محمد اور ایک جواب کو علی اکبر کا جگر دے. بہنوں کو سکینہ کی دعاؤں کا سر دے. مولا تجھے زینب کی اسیری کی قسم ہے بے جرم اسیروں کو رہائی کی خبر دے. جو چادر زینب جزار مولا محفوظ سینس خواتین کے پردے. جو دین کے کام آئے وہ رات عطا کر. جو مجلس شبیر کی خاطر مفت اور لال جوائر کے بارش مخلوق کا ہر خاک و بغیر سے کر. غم کوئی نہ دے ہم کو سوائے غم شبیر. غم کوئی نہ دے ہم کو سوائے غم شبیر. شبیر کا غم بانٹ رہا ہے تو ادھر سے سارے حیدری. دشمنان شبیر تیرے پیر پہ لانا.